the biggest immigration fuck up of yours? Very interesting. I wanna learn about that too, because I don't know the answer.
Oh, there's malpractice. So I'll tell this one. This is one that the first one really. When I started working, I was working for lawyers and stuff. And one thing I was doing, I was helping with EB1A extraordinary ability case preparation. So the lawyer got a case, and I was just working on the criteria and like do they awards and stuff like that. I was organizing it, and the client was dragging their feet giving it. So it was constantly like they send stuff review, we ask questions, wait another 2 weeks. And this went on for months and months. And it was an easy case in the sense that the person was the biggest celebrity in their home country, literally the number one celebrity. So it was easy. It's just we had to like get certain documents. And then so by the time I got the package ready, then I went to do the I-140. And when we did that, I saw his kid had aged out like a week earlier. And so I remember I wanted to throw up. I remember it was like, practically everyone's had these kind of issues, so they know that feeling in your stomach where you like feel like crap. Like it was just like it's a just horrible feeling. Now it wasn't technically my fault because I didn't even know the kids. I mean, I should have probably started now with the I-140 first, but I was like, I-140 is just a technical aspect. I'm gonna work for the hard parts. The attorney that was on the case, I mean, should have you got to get that's you learn from these experiences, which is always ask, do you have children? If you have children, what are their date of birth? So you have that on your calendar, not to let them age out. And then all that kind of
It's
stuff.
very, very important to put it on your calendar. You may ask, but not do anything with that information, but along with the other deadlines, make sure.
I-751 deadlines, that kind of stuff. You got to, it's so important. And so now what happened is when the guy had applied for wanting to get a green card, his popularity was waning. So he was just trying to get out of his home country. Then but then he shot up again, so he didn't want to move again. So he eventually didn't even pursue it. He didn't continue it. So it wasn't as bad because things are back to. He thought his career was going to end, so he was like trying to get out. Then things changed, but it was like it's horrible feeling. It's just a horrible gut feeling, bad feeling. But it reversed. You got to think about dates. And I had another case where I wrote the wrong check amount for like a dependent, and then the dependent aged out. Luckily, we were able to somehow get in non-pro-tunc, but that was like it was an age out. It was like their I-94 expired, and then because the check bounced, it came back, and so then by the time we resent it, it was already I-94 expired. But non-pro-tunc, they approved it. But that was a terrible feeling too. So I have like the biggest problems like that pop up for me are writing the check the wrong amount, putting the wrong date on the check. Like it'll be 2022, I'll put 2020. Or mailing it to mailing to the wrong place. I do that sometimes, but it isn't once a year. But like it doesn't come out back because USCIS reroutes it. But the check issues is bad because like I'll write. So that's why I always have you. We use credit cards, and we went to credit cards full time, except if it's an emergency case. But I always have you review like if I write a check, I'm like, please look at this to make sure I wrote it right because my eyes will glaze over the date or the name or something being wrong. And so that's the kind of mistakes that I make. Typos are my biggest thing.
That's why it's very important to have like couple pair of eyes on every case, to avoid this kind of issues. But thank you, John, for sharing that. And it's very important to share not only positive experience again in our profession, but negative parts too, because usually people tend to just, hey, I got this approved, but no one talks about the bad stuff. But it's still there. Everyone does mistakes, and for example, if you do a mistake, we all have been there. We all had this gut feeling that you were just talking about, and sometimes you can fix it, so it doesn't really count. Sometimes you cannot fix it, but you can always reach out to colleagues, and see. Sometimes again, you can do something about it. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, and you just have to live with it. And again, this is part of our profession and who we are.
Everyone's gonna do it. I mean, you got to be on top of it so it doesn't happen. But inevitably, like at least probably once every 1 or 2 years, there's gonna be a mess up. And hopefully, it's not a mess up that it's one you can clean up. But it's like doctors and surgeons do mistakes when they kill patients. So
exactly. That's what helps me. I think I have a friend. She works at the what is called ICU. She's a nurse and she's ICU nurse. And if she does a mistake, someone can die. And I'm like, okay, if I do a mistake, yes, someone may not immigrate to the United States. And it kind of helps me on the psychological level to deal with this part.
But at the same time, like a lot of people become numb to it, and whatever, because like especially like doctors, they have to kind of like kill that feeling because it's gonna cause them not to be able to do anything. They worry. Like And when I've had these kind of mess ups, I kind of like, I want to quit. I just want to do this anymore. So that's happened in my head, but it's like, it is what it is. Like things happen. You got to keep going. But it's yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.